You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Totemly Drunk, and tonight on episode 134, we've got a lot to cover. So we'll be discussing the latest in Overwatch, Overwatch esports, and see what's buzzing in this week's hot community topics. But before I can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course, thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So, joining me tonight, as always, joining me in, the postseason blues is my co-host, Edinar. And Ed, I saw your lost bet picture. I know it's very disheartening, but, Brewers, they did better than the Cubs, and I just hope for my sanity that the Dodgers go on to lose so I could just throw it in Ashanka's face after I completely shit on the Dodgers when they lost to the Astros last year at BlizzCon. So I need to make it 2 for 2. But how are you doing this week?
Well, this weekend was a bit emotional from the Brewers losing, sadly. So that sucked. But it was a good season. We got next season, and hopefully the Dodgers lose, mainly so I can get back at the person who I lost the said bet to. It's other than that, it's been fun. Having fun in Warcraft, which is not something you commonly hear nowadays. Not hearing that often. I've been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone lately. And then, getting in some matches of Overwatch every day. Today, I went in, I'm like, all right, I gotta get some arcades done. And then I just went really quick. And then all of a sudden, I'm waiting, and then it pops up, competitive. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, I do not want to be here. So, that was interesting, to say the least. Solo queuing. We did not win. We did not win. Yeah, we got rolled. It's been fun. Otherwise, looking forward to a nice long weekend. Getting ready for BlizzCon hype and all that stuff. So you must have so much going on in the next week.
Yeah. So obviously I leave for BlizzCon on Tuesday. So just a quick update, if you guys haven't heard or if you don't listen to the other podcasts on our network, our plan for these next 2 weeks, pre and post BlizzCon, is we're gonna get Edinar, myself, and Spider from Overwatch League Network all together to do BlizzCon shows, essentially. So both of those recordings will be happening at the OWLN time slot of Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And if you're not able to make that live, we will be releasing the episode on both the Overwatch League Network RSS feed as well as a Heroes Never Die RSS feed. So if you listen to one specific podcast, you'll still be hearing the same thing. But it's just easier on me primarily, just because that will make sure that I'm not having to run back and forth all the time when I'm actually on vacation. And really, it makes sense, because when it comes to BlizzCon, when it comes to having, an esports-specific show, it'd be very easy for us to just say, oh, we're only going to cover the World Cup on, Overwatch League Network. And then, that would kind of leave H&D kind of in a weird spot where, we could, cover some announcements, but, we kind of cover everything here. So, the plan is, we're going to have a variety Overwatch episode, as normal, except it'll be a little bit different in regards to the OWLN format, but that's something to look forward to. But yeah, I leave Tuesday. I will be starting my Blizzcation starting Sunday, so I got 2 more work days, and then I'm on Blizzcation for 2 weeks, so 15 days off. Pretty excited. Hopefully in that time span, I will save my soulmate Slambo and remove him from the abyss. So that's my hope. I don't know how far into the abyss that I have to go, or if I myself will get lost in the abyss. So I'm gonna leave a trail so someone can hopefully find me just in case. But I'm nervous about that. I'm hoping I actually get to see him when I'm in Vegas post BlizzCon. But there's a lot going on, obviously, and the same can be said in regards to all of the news that we've got, and we're not even at BlizzCon yet.
Yeah, this was supposed to be like a slow week leading up to Nobody's expecting news info and drops and stuff the week before BlizzCon because people are preparing for BlizzCon. And Overwatch gave, big middle finger, like, nope, we're going to do it all beforehand. So, yeah, we got massive amounts of information this week.
Yeah, and some of it even dropped, as soon as, an hour ago, for that matter, in some cases. But anyways, let's go ahead, let's jump into the news, because, as I said, we have a lot to go over tonight. So first up, let's talk about one of the leaks that had dropped by Target, which is taking a look at the upcoming LEGO sets from the Overwatch line. So this release is going to follow the recent release of the small-scale $25 Omnic Bastion set, that is currently being sold on a Blizzard Gear store. And just as a reminder, it's not only on the Gear store, but you will also be able to buy this if you are going to BlizzCon. So we have 6 new sets that are going to be coming out. Still, no official release date. Of course, before we, reported, 2019, kind of, similar to the Nerf Rivals line for Overwatch. But right now, the LEGO Overwatch site still remains pretty bare bones, but we do have details about the sets that are coming out. So the sets themselves range anywhere from $14.99 on the low end to as expensive as $89.99, which is, the biggest set. But there's only one at that price point. So looking at the smaller scale, we have a Tracer versus Widowmaker set. That is 129 pieces, retail cost of $15. So, you get Tracer, you get Widowmaker minifigures. It also has the payload from Watchpoint Gibraltar. We also have Hanzo vs. Genji. That one is 197 pieces, retail price of $20. So you get Hanzo and Genji minifigures, and also the final capture point of Hanamura. So very similar to the, the dragons, cinematic there. Mm-hmm. We have Dorado Showdown. That one is 419 pieces. That one is $30. So you get a Dorado home as well as the payload. That also includes McCree and Reaper minifigures. We have Diva and Reinhardt that are paired together. That one is 455 pieces. That one is $40. So you get a larger scale like Diva and Reinhardt, and that does include the mecha for Diva. We have a scaled-up model of Bastion. Now, wow, imagine that. We kind of called this one. And yes, in fact, he can shift into Sentry configuration, which I know a lot of people are wanting. I didn't see Ganymede included in this one, so yep. I guess you just had...
He's there.
Oh, is he?
If you look on the box where it shows him in turret form, look directly below.
Okay.
Little Ganymede's right there. So.
Okay.
So, we got it.
Good to note. But this is the base skin model for Bastion. This one is 602 pieces, and that has a retail cost of $50. And then on the far end of the spectrum, the biggest set that we have is for Watchpoint Gibraltar. This one is 730 pieces with a retail price of $90. And this one has 4 different minifigures. You get Winston, Mercy, Pharah, and Reaper. And then you also get the shuttle and a launch pad that is at the end of Watchpoint Gibraltar. So all in all, we are getting 6 new sets. The price points are... about what you expect, and, they're not all in one price point, which is nice to see. So, we got a good variety there. We got a decent mixture of characters, but, I thought it was interesting that, some of the characters kind of, cross over into different sets, which I found a little bit confusing. But all in all, when I saw this, my hype went through the roof, as soon as I saw, The Deviant Reinhardt one was the one that I primarily was looking at, but I was just happy to be right when it comes to the Bastion large-scale set, because, I was expecting it, and we're getting it, and it's exactly what I was wanting, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, no, it's some of these were surprising in the little features that, you see, but it's nice that they added it, like the big one, the spaceship with, Mercy, Farah. They have the Far Mercy combo, like they show it on the box of, Mercy in the air with a stream attached to Farah, the only playable way to use Mercy right now. So that was pretty cool. I did laugh a little bit on the Tracer Widowmaker one. I'm like, so you have two characters who are supposed to never be on the payload come out with the payload. That I found a little weird, but I mean, that's just nitpicking at this point. I don't know. My favorite though is actually the Hanzo versus Genji one. Just because it's I love how they throw in the token, henchman from
the random security guard.
Random security guard with an Uzi running away with his cell phone. Like, it just looks like a cheesy villain from the Lego movie that they're trying to kill. And so I really liked that one the most, I think. I don't know how to scale. Like, I'd need a comparison to see how big the Reinhardt and the Diva ones are. Like, how big if they're like, I don't know, like 6-7 inches tall. I don't know if that's tall enough for me. I don't know. I'd want them to be paying that much. I want them to be almost statue size. But that's just me.
All right, well, with that being said, though, when we're looking at these price points, for me, like, I know I'm going to buy these, whether or not I collect all of them, I'm still kind of, like, on the fence about, but I love Legos. I mean, who doesn't love Legos? I look forward to, shouting, some obscenities whenever I step on one, which is inevitable because they are Legos. But the chances are I will probably rage a lot less at the Legos than I do sometimes when I'm actually playing the game. So there is that. But where are you sitting right now when it comes to actually like collecting the sets right now?
Right now, I mean, I'm gonna buy some. The ones that I'm on the fence about are the $89.99 one.
Okay.
Just because that is a lot of money to spend on a Lego set. I'm gonna get the Dorado and the Genji Hanzo one, and I'll probably end up getting the Tracer Widowmaker one, and then I'm gonna hold off on the Diva Reinhardt one for now until I can get a better idea of what they're like. I have zero interest in Bastion. It doesn't appeal to me. Bastion's never been one of my favorite characters. No appeal to me on this one. So I'm probably going to shy away from Bastion.
What if it was a large-scale Ganymede?
So, a large-scale bird.
Yeah.
I feel that would lose some appeal to me, too.
What if it could animate and attack, a co-host like it did on Watchpoint Radio?
Yes, if it could
10 of
do
10
that.
quality.
Yes. But yeah, no, I'll probably get like the 3-4 and then hold off on the Diva Tracer, and then maybe I'll put the Watchpoint Gibraltar one on like a birthday request or something like that, and see if anybody will get it for me.
Right.
Or any listeners. I don't know.
And if anyone didn't understand what I was referencing, I'm just gonna post it in Twitch chat, because that was the thing that happened and I just lost it. So you guys need to watch that clip and specifically look at Kinder's frame, the one on the far right, because it is absolutely priceless. But that being said, moving on, there's quite a bit going on in the PTR. We did get a new patch on the PTR, which we'll talk about later on in this episode for part of our main discussion. But, there's been kind of like some other stuff that is maybe a little bit more low-key in a sense, but, they are both map-related and we need to bring them to your attention. So first up, let's talk about Route 66, and yeah, the payload on this map has undergone a little bit of changes. So the payload, which, is supposed to be housing a nuclear weapon, has been opened. That weapon is not there. It's gone. So the last time we saw a payload change in the game, that basically sparked a number of different lore events, which eventually would lead to the introduction of not one, but 2 new heroes into the game, that being Orisa as well as Doomfist. This is when, that the airport was basically just torn to shreds on Numbani, and, we saw the Doomfist gauntlet being stolen back to its rightful owner. We saw how exactly that went down. But, when we look at this map, this is an escort map in which, if you're the attacking team, you're escorting a military bomb to the Deadlock Gains cave hideout at the end of the map. Now, going back to the lore a bit, the Deadlock Game, they have a very close relationship to McCree, and their biggest heist saw the game using explosives to blow up the bridge above the gorge on the map. They also, left the military train cars kind of scattered around the diner, and they also stole a large bomb from the train. So, with that being said, there is a lot of potential that this is either a tease of a new hero. This could be leading into a McCree animated short at BlizzCon, which is important to note because McCree just so happens to be the main Overwatch hero that is on the BlizzCon key art this year. But that being said, our dev and savior, Papa Jeffrey Cap, praise him. There was a dev update, which we'll talk a little bit about, and he did say, there's no new map coming. He wants milder expectations because we're so used to getting certain things at BlizzCon. But in your mind, are you expecting a new hero and a new animated short to get tied into this change on the map?
100%. But there's no way they're not going to do a hero. There's lots of speculation about what the next hero could be. Anything right now is just take as a giant rumor. Like what you read. All we know right now is that there is a missing nuclear bomb. That is it. We know literally nothing else. I know there's been talks about this leading to a new mech or something like that, and I personally don't believe they will do anything with a mech with this because they have Diva. They just got our last hero had a mech. So I don't know what they're gonna do when this all comes to fruition. But we're getting a new hero. We're going to get a new short to go along with it, and it's probably going to be McCree related because if it does have to do with Route 66, that's the McCree map. That's everyone knows it as the McCree map. So I would lean towards McCree short. Well, sorry, not McCree short, but the new hero short with heavy McCree in it. So it will be a short about the new hero. But it will be revolved around interaction with McCree and whatnot. So yeah, I'm very excited for that because one of the big things is that if they don't announce, because when they said they didn't have a map, to not have a new hero, and to announce the stuff they already announced, there's nothing else they can really bring up at BlizzCon. Really, there's not a whole much that really is that interesting to people as far as the game goes. So I think we're gonna get another hero because they're following this every 3-month pattern of a new hero, and this is the 3-month, window. So we're gonna get it. But what do you think? Do you think we're gonna get a hero?
Yeah, absolutely. And to talk about the map situation, Kaplan was very tentative when he was kind of saying that. I'm not going to rule out, a new game mode or map type when it comes to the game. Now, that being said, we kind of, look at, the elimination, for instance. They introduced that, and, of course, they had a couple of maps tied into that. But, the whole thing was, you have to have a map, at least, to be able to be played on the new game mode. But I know it seems like a lot of this right now is just going to lead into a Mercury animated short. But I just want to see like how much it interacts with Diva in a sense that, you know, like we look at Diva and her mecha, and, you know, the mecha core looks a lot like what the payload looks like on Route 66. It basically has like that same circular object on the top, and, you know, we did learn quite a bit about explosive properties when it comes to mecha units through the last Diva short, that being Shooting Stars. But like, I 100% agree, like, I cannot imagine another mecha unit right now, at least someone that is like always in a mech or has a major mech component. That's not to say that they can't, you know, like, use the technology in some way, but like, I can't imagine another like heavy tank since we already have two.
Yeah, no, like when I think mecha, I think you know, Hammond, Diva. They could use. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be like a suit or anything like that. It could be used for different technology to help. Like you could build an arm cannon with it. Yeah, you know what I mean, like something like that.
It could even be a bodysuit for that matter. It doesn't have to be like a full mech.
Yeah, it does. Like, there's different ways to get around it. It's a nuclear weapon. I highly doubt. So that means every time if it is same as Diva's, that means every time she ults, she drops a nuke on people. a little South Korean girl is nuking people to death.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't send the best image, and I feel the blast radius would be a lot bigger. I don't know. Just going out from, you know, history. I don't know. It seems like it's a rather big explosion from what I've read. So I don't know. I think we're due a damage dealer. I think at this point, I think we're going to get some form of a damage dealer who uses the nuclear weapon to boost their abilities. Like, they're not like, you know, they don't have special powers. They're going to create their own powers by using this nuclear weapon to build something. So I'm interested to see. You know, maybe it's Rocket Cat, or what was it? Is it Rocket Cat? No.
Jetpack
Cat. Mm-hmm. See, maybe a cat stole it and
can only hope.
And is building a really, really powerful jetpack.
Or maybe that random Joe security guard is gonna be like the new Mega Man. You don't know. Like, it could be anything.
The token security guard. He's just planning his revenge. Like, I'm gonna kill all
I saw him in that set. I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's just there for like no reason. Like, how far-fetched would that be if, like, some completely random person in a Lego set ends up being, like, the next Overwatch hero?
Well, it would be really good planning and trolling on Blizzard's part, which they have been known to do. But if you remember the animated short at the beginning, you know, Hanzo goes in and kills all the, you know, henchmen before getting there. So
hey, but you know, you take one head off of a snake, or, you know, a hydra or whatever. They still have more heads. Like, there will always be another person to step up within that syndicate to take the fight to Hanzo.
Wow, this got off topic real quick.
As should be expected. But basically, this confirms StarCraft Ghost, right? You know, we already have Nova Widowmaker in the game. We got nuclear launch detected, so we'll have to go from there. But anyways,
that has to be a voice line for any character that comes in with the nuclear, like, they're all nuclear launch detected.
Or if not, they would have to just give it specifically to the Nova Widowmaker skin.
Good point.
But
maybe it's Widowmaker.
Another Widowmaker. No.
Yes. Widowmaker's eviler sister. Widowmaker 2.
She just has like a very like deeper shade of blue.
Yes.
Okay. I like where we're going.
Even harder to aim with. Yeah. It will go over well.
Well, that is not the only map change that we have on the PTR right now, and There's actually another change on Blizzard World that we need to talk about, and
Yes.
I saw a post on this earlier today, and I was like, well, I didn't know if it was on the PTR or if it was on live. So check live first. Was not on there. Check PTR. Sure enough, it was there, and it's in the StarCraft portion of the map. So we didn't really touch up on this when it happened, but last month Mike Morhaime had stepped down as the acting Blizzard president. And basically, like, the Overwatch team decided to honor his time with Blizzard by adding a little sort of like tribute area to Mike Morhaime in the game. So he's honored in the Founders Room, which is on Blizzard World, which you can check out right now over on the public test realm. And basically, like, the room, it has like a photo of Mike Morhaime, and it's surrounded by like, on the back wall, there's like a timeline of his Blizzard history. Like, it dates like all of the years, like what games he was helping develop at that time, and it spans from the start of his career all the way till this year. And then when you approach this image of Mike, you see like this little video, or you see like a little bit of like animated video, but like you start to hear like parts of his speeches from prior BlizzCons. And then on the floor, you have these little plaques that have some of his more memorable quotes that he's given over the years. And then on top of that, you have like well wishes and messages from the Overwatch team. And it was very touching when I got in there. Like, I got pretty emotional just seeing it, and I thought it was really cool that they just like gave him his own portion, part of the game here. And it's worth noting, like, Morhaime is still with the company, still with Blizzard. Yes, he has stepped down as the acting president, but he is still a strategic advisor. And then stepping up to fill that president slot is former World of Warcraft executive producer J. Allen Brack. But that being said, like, what better way to say thanks to Mike Morhaime than engraving him within the game itself, and him always getting to be there. So that's pretty cool, and it's in the StarCraft area, and his love for StarCraft basically knows no bounds. So it was a very touching moment by the dev team.
Yeah, no, it really was. Like, I actually went on the PTR, checked it out, turned down the volume of the music so you can hear him speak and stuff like that. That would be my one suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
If you go check it out. For those who don't know where the Founders Room is, if you're in the spawn point on defense, like the first spawn point, just kind of go out the normal door you do and make like a U-turn almost. Mm-hmm. It's right there on your left. So just go in there, check it out. It is pretty cool. It's awesome that they did this. And I mean, obviously they knew it beforehand, so they could prepare it. Like, this wasn't something they just threw together in the past couple days and put in the game. They probably knew about it for a couple weeks, and we're getting it prepared. But it's a very touching tribute to the guy who started everything. I mean, the reason we're doing this podcast, because of him. Mm-hmm. Without him, we don't have any of these games, some of the most successful games in history, from StarCraft to Warcraft to Diablo once every 10 years, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, Hearthstone. It's massive. So go check it out. It's pretty awesome. One thing that they should do, and I don't know if it's truly feasible, but they should not allow attacking to occur in this room. Yeah, I'm saying that. Not in comp, but in like quick play. Arcade. Mm-hmm. People want to go in and check it out. They should be able to check it out without being, killed. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, like, I'm trying to think of, like, how many times I've actually gone in that area in any game.
I've gone in there quite a bit when I've been on, like, Widowmaker and stuff like that. Because, like, that bridge right there is a good place to, not get headshots. Mm-hmm. And if I need to heal, that's probably my favorite place to go heal, from up on that bridge. So I've been in there a few times.
But now you're supposed to get healed by the uplifted messages of Mike Morhaime.
Exactly.
They're just removing the health pack altogether.
Yeah. Or let's just keep the giant health pack in that room too. Gives you more incentive to go see Morheim's picture.
This is also true. I mean, it works both ways. But anyway, so we had a little bit of a reveal stream that kicked off like an hour before we started recording. So for this week's Hot Community Topics, we do have 2 unveilings of Overwatch League expansion franchises. So first up, let's talk about the first team that was unveiled, which was kind of leaked early by the official Overwatch League app. And this is like kind of done like overnight, and then Atlanta panicked first thing in the morning and then released all the info. But Atlanta was the first franchise to announce its name and its branding, and Atlanta Overwatch League is going to be known as the Atlanta Reign. So this team uses a red and black color scheme. Big shocker there.
Weird.
Yeah, imagine that, which does associate with their other major sports teams in the area, Atlanta Falcons primarily, you also have Atlanta United FC, and it also has a bird, much like the Falcons and the Atlanta Hawks, and, like, in the background, there's, like, sort of like a shield emblem. So leading up to this unveiling, Atlanta had been, like, announcing several members of their staff, which included, like, coaches, director of partnerships, director of marketing, analysts, things like that. But this is a team that is not yet to name any other signed players. Now, that being said, we've all heard the rumor mill. We've talked about it at length on Overwatch League Network. There's a certain player that a lot of people are expecting to be on this roster, which I know a lot of people are probably excited about, in Defiant, which is still unofficial. But it seems like, Atlanta was really the first one to start kicking up all these announcements, and they were doing it basically every day leading up to this franchise unveiling. So first up, like, what do you think of the name? What do you think of the color scheme? And more importantly, like, did today's reveal lessen the impact of Atlanta?
I mean, okay, first off, for Atlanta, I actually like the Atlanta. I like the name. I'm not the biggest color scheme fan of the red, gray, and dark gray, because they go light gray, red, and charcoal gray, like 2 different kinds of So you have all that. There's a spider I killed.
If it's not birds attacking, it's spiders, apparently.
Oh, I didn't kill it. Oh, no. Yep. It's dead now.
Widowmaker's got to remember that, just so you know.
Ah, die. Okay.
This is
I got
quality podcasting for our
Crisis
listeners.
averted. Spider's dead. I did not have to light my apartment on fire.
Does someone have a timestamp?
Okay.
38 minutes in. Okay.
38 minutes in, Kirk gets attacked by a spider. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I like the name. I don't like the color scheme.
Okay.
I like the red. I feel if they went red and black, that would have been better. But the fact that they went red and like gray, not the biggest fan of that. Obviously, we don't know the names of any of the players. We have rumors or anything like that. But they could have done worse. They could have had a worse name. Like a certain Canadian team, and it is what it is. I'm not going to be a big Atlanta supporter, unless for some reason they sign like 5 of my favorite players, which I don't see them doing because my favorite player is 13, and can't really be signed by anyone. But yeah, it was overall pretty good. I mean, what did you think about it?
My biggest gripe with this is the little bit of like a shield emblem, which for one, like from a marketing standpoint, you can't really use that like on a t-shirt. It just wouldn't look that good. But like to your point, like when I saw the color scheme, like actually like on the skins, I was just confused. Like I for sure thought it was gonna be black and red, just like the Atlanta Falcons, and that that gray is almost more like a silver, in a sense. It's very light, a lot lighter than I was expecting. So it's more in line with like Toronto Esports in a way, but Toronto Esports is more white, but it's a lot lighter than what you would expect for that franchise. And then there was another team that got announced today that had a very similar color scheme, which I thought would have looked better for Atlanta, for that matter. But like all in all, like I was okay with it. The names are right. Like I'm not like completely sold on the two names that we've heard so far, but it definitely feels Atlanta. It fits in with their other sports franchises out there. But I just want to know whether or not the Defiant to Overwatch League rumors are true. Just because that's going to be the biggest news out of everything when it comes to Atlanta. But for now, I'm just disappointed in the fact that, one, Slambo has not been announced on the staff, and two, they are not the Atlanta airports. They were teasing, like, all roads lead here or something. I was like, to the airport, right? And then no.
Yeah, because people want to leave Atlanta.
Right.
So all roads lead to the airport to get the hell out.
Right, exactly.
That's how it works in Atlanta, right?
I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
But that did not end up being the case, nor was the supposed Toronto leak actually the case either. So, there's a little bit of a leak on 4chan, which, shocker, was not true. I mean, it is 4chan, so I wasn't going to hold my breath too long. But we did have a reveal stream from Toronto, again, which was like an hour and 40 minutes ago from this point in the podcast recording. So the Venom leak was absolutely fake. So Toronto unveiled their brand, their logo, their team colors, and nothing else. Like, for one, there was no roster announcement. They did, like, a little bit of a Q&A, which I honestly did not tune in for, because as soon as they said, no roster announcement today, but soon, I was like, well, I got the info I needed for the podcast, see ya, I'm out. But we have the Toronto Defiant. Now, Defiant was chosen to resemble the resilience of Toronto's citizens, and, I'm not surprised that Toronto has, like, so much pent-up anger and angst, because this is, an area that, hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 51 years. Looking at you, Toronto Maple Leafs. So, they're a little bit angry. Toronto takes their hockey very, very seriously. But when we're looking at the colors, you got, like, black, red, gray, a little bit of white, and, you got the red and white that, ties in with the Canadian flag, but no roster announcement. But what I was laughing at with this is the fact that, one, like, that was the color scheme I wanted for Atlanta when I did the side-by-side comparison, because they do have, like, a more, like, charcoal-type gray mixed in with the red, which would have looked better suited for an Atlanta team, but their logo in itself kind of has, like, this arrow. They were doing, like, a whole, like, rise up or whatever the heck they were doing with their hashtags, which I was expecting, like, Toronto Revolution. I thought that would have made sense given their history with the Battle of York, but that's a different story. But, like, there's, like, this little arrow, so I'm just waiting for Toronto to, like, completely shit the bed, right? And then they're gonna turn it upside down, and they're just gonna boo them that way. It's gonna happen.
Oh God! Like, all right. So, the Toronto Defiant. First off, stupid name. It just is. I'm sorry. No, Revolution would have been a great name. Venom would have been, or whatever it was. Toronto Venom would have been a better name than the Toronto Defiant. What are you defiant of? You're Canada. They're like the nicest.
They're too polite to be defiant.
So listen here, Canadian Bacon. We need to work on your naming abilities. Like, Revolution would have been perfect. But no, they went with Defiant. So, first off, worst name in Overwatch League is the Toronto Defiant. The jerseys, though, I actually like. Like the color schemes that they have, I do like them. It's very similar colors to the Atlanta team, because you have the red and you have the gray. It's just different variations of that color that make it look better for the Toronto team. So They get an A for the uniforms. They get an F- for the name. I'm not going to call them Defiant. Call them Toronto or that team.
Yeah, the Toronto Antos.
Yes. Yeah. Toronto Maples. Toronto Nickelback. I don't know. John Candy probably, I'm just listing off Canadian stuff.
Well, they couldn't be the Toronto Maple Leafs because, that's already taken.
Well, it depends on how much they lose.
This is true. Let's see where they are in 51 years and whether or not they have a championship to their name.
All they have to do is win one championship in 51 years, and they're the best team in Toronto history.
That's really setting the bar pretty high.
You know what? Hey, it is what it is. I'm sorry, Canada. Like, it's just how it is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I know they had the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays were good, but were they?
Were they really?
Were they really? They had the greatest second greatest Brewer player of all time on that team. So I'll give them credit, Paul Molitor. But that's about it. Yeah.
So a lot of people on the Discords have been griping about the Hold Unveiled stream. So basically, what happened was, they said, okay, we're gonna start at 6:00 Central Time, 7 Eastern. And they, they had like a countdown timer. Then, it hit 0. Then it went to another countdown timer.
Meanwhile, in between the two countdown timers, and I get this is actually, if I remember history class and stuff like that correctly, in Canada, if you do something promotional-wise in English, you also have to do it in French. At least in certain parts. They may be like in Quebec or something like that. But so what they did is they brought out, they had the two normal casters who came out, pumped up their sponsors, and then they had to pump up the sponsors in French as well. And then they went to another 6-minute queue to bring out somebody to announce the name of the team. Like, what was with the 6 minutes of just nothingness? Why couldn't you just bump that guy up 6 minutes? It's not like they were showing ads in between. Like when they pumped up what internet company?
I honestly can't remember. I don't know anything about Canadian internet. All I know is that HP Omen was the sponsor.
That's it. And they were talking about giving away free. I'm like, do you get like it for free for life? Like, do you just buy the internet? Do you not pay for it by month? These Canadian rules are baffling to me. They did went black. They just went blank for 6 minutes or whatever. They just had the screen up with the timer, and I'm like, this was a waste of 15 minutes of my life. Probably, what it's going to be like to be a Toronto fan.
Except in this case, it's going to be at least 51 years. Unless, like, early on, like, they learn from their prior experience of being a Maple Leafs fan, and then they're like, I know where this is going. And they're just like, deuces, I'm out.
We are going to be Defiant.
And then, they defy and become a Vancouver Runners fan. Like, that's how it's going to work, right? Like,
there we go.
That's what's going to happen. I can already see it now. Because that's going to be the only other Canadian team.
It really is. What are you going to do? I mean, really, if Vancouver signs the Runaways, that's really the only Canadian team that matters.
My favorite thing, though, was, like, they specifically, like, called out Vancouver and how they were just going to dumpster them.
Yeah, no.
And, I was kind of, like, looking at, like, the rumored sign-in so far, and I was just looking at it, I'm like, yeah, nah, that's not going to happen.
You may steamroll Shanghai?
No. I wouldn't even say that. Shanghai this year is going to have the biggest turnaround out of the teams.
That's a bold statement. A big turnaround is one win.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, growth-wise, when you compare the season, like, I think if we're looking at the current lineups, which most of these signings are official at this point, I expect Shanghai to get far more wins than Florida, even with Florida's
Really?
look. I'm expecting Train High to be the better between the two.
Which side of player is a cheater? Sorry, had to go there.
You had to go there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we got 2 Overwatch League franchise expansion announcements. BlizzCon is pretty soon, so, we're expecting, more to either drop before or at BlizzCon. So stay tuned for that. But let's go ahead and go inside the league as we see what's going on around Overwatch League. So there's quite a bit going on, including a expansion franchise roster, at least a majority of the roster. And first up, I want to talk about a certain transfer from a certain team, which will segue perfectly into this next bit. So we have the Valiant having undergone some changes recently, so they traded away their star DPS player soon to an, and I quote, unnamed Overwatch League team, Paris.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, not only that, but they also traded 2 coaches. They traded Damon and Goomba to the unnamed team, the same team, I should say, and the Boston Uprising, respectively. So, Damon to Paris, you had Goomba going to Boston Uprising. So, that leaves quite a bit of question marks in regards to the LA Valiant, your team. So, Soon is no longer on the team. That kind of opens up a hit scan role on this roster for the Valiant. So, you look at that lineup. They have KSF, who mostly underwhelmed on Genji, but he does play hit scan. You also have Karif, who has been known to flex the DPS roles in the past, which we even saw him do in Season 1. That was more primarily on, Widowmaker, though, but he did play some 76. And then, let's say, they give KSF the nod. Given his prior performances, do you expect for the Valiant to give him, a big window in order to show what he's capable of before, they make the call to put Kariv in? Or are you expecting Kariv to fill in for that DPS slot for that hit scan role?
All right, so in a perfect situation, because I don't want to go out on a limb. I think Kariv is going to be, if they don't bring it in.
Discord's cutting out a bit, just so you know.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think they're going to bring in somebody else.
Okay.
I think they're going to bring in Zachary. It makes sense. With that team, it does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't bring in Zachary or somebody else, I do think they're going to go with Kariv. And KSF is going to be kind of almost a niche pick, but I think Kariv will take over that spot. But I think Zachary fits perfectly into that team. Losing soon and getting that other top-notch, Widowmaker play, stuff like that. Get him in there. He fits in perfectly. And I don't think the team would skip a beat. Because he's the probably one Contenders player that we haven't heard anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably top 3 player in Contenders as far as needs to be in, can actually be in Overwatch League, and hasn't already been rumored to somebody.
Right.
It's just it's baffling to me. So it makes the most sense. But if they don't do it, then yeah, I think they're going to go with Kariv.
See, when I kind of look at what's been going on in the social media, and even what we saw in the California Cup, which, by the way, side gripe here, the first part of the California Cup happened, and they do not have VODs anywhere for that event. I didn't catch all of it, I caught part of it, and it was fantastic. It completely just annihilated the first event for the Gilded Gala. Night and day difference between the two. But there's no VODs available, so they didn't have the whatever the option is to save past broadcasts on their Twitch account, and a lot of people have not been happy about that because it was a really entertaining event. But if you look at the LA Valiant social media, you might have noticed a certain individual that is on that support line that has kind of been brought to the forefront of their media content very recently, that being Aziaki. So with that being said, like I feel like Kariv will be playing primarily as a DPS next season, which would put Izayaki into play. He'd be on a support line. He'd actually be seeing play. But it seems like they're prepping to give him a lot more time. So I feel like right now they're just kind of putting him at the forefront next to like Custa and Space. So he's part of the advertisements. They're like basically introducing him to the world at this point. So it's a pretty big tip of the hand in my eyes.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. There's so many question marks around all these teams that we just don't have answers. And this is one of them. So time will tell, but yes, they are putting him towards the the advertising. I mean, the face of the Valiant is Custa. Even with Soon there, the face of that team was Custa, because he's probably one of the biggest fan favorites. He's the new Jake. Now that Jake is no longer Jake and is probably not going to be playing in the Overwatch League much longer, Custa's the new Jake. He's the face of the franchise in the US. I stand wholeheartedly behind that because he's probably the most recognizable person in the league outside of Jake. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've noticed that too. It's just I just don't know what they're gonna do because they haven't announced really anything other than they got rid of people. Mm-hmm. And until they announce who they're bringing in, I'm gonna hold off speculation. Just because, I'm gonna hold off speculation. They're gonna be bringing in more people. They just are.
Well, what I will note is in the first part of the California Cup, the Valiant did soundly defeat the San Francisco Shock. But, that's the show match, so, you can take that for what it is. But, we talked about the Valiant, so we have to talk about where some of their pieces went to, that being Paris. We don't have a franchise name. The Baguettes.
They're the Baguettes. You can't go Baguettes because we already have a Baguette in game.
Yeah, but that's not how that works. See, there's plural in baguettes.
What is
but there's only one
hat
baguette
that they wear? What's the weird hat?
The weird hat that they wear.
Yeah, the stereotypical hat that French people wear. This is gonna bother me.
Beret.
Yes.
Okay.
The Paris berets. There you go. That sounds better. If they do like Paris Eiffel Towers, there you go. That's not as stereotypical though.
No.
We could do better, but we just can't go Baguette because we have Baguette in game.
Okay, so Paris, they unveiled their roster, right? They have 9 players. They announced their head coach, their general manager, and the important thing to note right now is Paris, as of right now, is completely European in regards to their roster. It has a mixture of players both from the Overwatch League as well as Contenders Europe. So on that DPS line, you have 2 former... well, I'm not going to say former because they're still in the league, but you have 2 Overwatch League players from Season 1 in Soon, big shocker, and Shadowburn.
Unnamed team.
Yeah, and Shadowburn being the other one, which was another pretty big sign-in. Also on the DPS line, you have Nico and Danye. Support line, they currently have 2 listed. You had my #ForeverSecond, reunited player on the support line. You have Cruz, who I've been a long time fan of. I've talked about his Lucio play and how good of a guardian he is on the back line, getting the boops and creating that separation for his other support, or, for him, whoever, all that good stuff. And then you have Hip. And then the tank line, you have Ben Best, LH Cloudy, and Finzi. Now, Finzi was in the Overwatch League in the inaugural season. He was with the Valiant. He didn't see any play. So, you kind of have to take that for what it is, but he's been known for his Zarya play. But when I look at this roster, we have, players from teams like Toronto Esports, Team Giganti, Eagle Gameman, Young and Beautiful, Copenhagen Flames. Some of which are more kind of like middle of the pack. EU teams. Some of them are on the high end. Copenhagen Flames, really, same with Young and Beautiful, but, like, they're kind of, like, all over the board. But this is the first expansion franchise to be at that league minimum roster size of 8. They also tease, like, an unnamed player on the roster who, based on what we know at this point, is probably going to be from EU as well. Which, if that's the case, like, that would be, like, the only Western team in the Overwatch League. Because the Outlaws are close, but they have Arhan. He's Korean, so they'd be the only ones eligible to have that claim. But my biggest concern is, okay, let's look back at Season 1. We had Florida Mayhem. They went out. They picked up who, at the time, were the top team in Europe, that being the Misfits. We saw what happened to Florida, and I look at this, and I'm like, oh no. This is going to happen again. Because when I look at this roster, I have major concerns outside of the DPS line. I am not very confident in their support and tank line in the current iterations, but, like, I like that they're trying to go for a more, national type roster. It's good representation of EU, but across the board, like, I am not fully impressed, but I am expecting good things from Asun and Shadowburn 1-2 combo on the DPS line. But for now, I am very cautiously optimistic about where this team is going to be. But if I had to grade them, I don't know if I would fail them, but I'd probably give them a D, like, overall.
Ooh.
Like, I'm not confident.
Ooh. That's hard because, like, I actually really like this roster. I mean, I really like Ben Best. Ben Best as the main tank is someone who I really like. As they don't have a good off tank. Finzi was with the Valiant, but there's a reason he never played. He just wasn't good enough. The DPS, I'm gonna, like, my bold prediction for this team: Shadowburn won't start. Shadowburn will not be your starting DPS. Your starting DPS will be Soon and Danye. From what I saw from Danye in the World Cup, he is a force to be reckoned with. That just isn't getting enough recognition, really. And he really kind of came out at the Overwatch World Cup. So I'm going to go with Danye over Shadowburn as your DPS with Soon. I do like Cruz. Cruz as a support, I like him. I don't know anything. I'll flat out admit, I don't know anything about Hype. And that's probably not a good thing because, like, I know a little bit more than most in the secondary scene. And for me not to really know much about him, that means he hasn't really stood out all that much. Like, you obviously know Hype, but you spend a lot more time on the secondary scene than really anyone I've ever met. So I don't know about him, and I don't know about LH Cloudy. Don't know anything about him. So I can see where if you don't have a good second support and a good second tank or flex tank, I could see how things could get wonky, and how things could go bad. But I do think Ben Best is a good main tank, good enough to be in the Overwatch League at least. So I give them a B- for their roster. I think they could have done better if they hadn't gone all European. But I think it was important. This is probably the best of the available players from actual EU that they could have gotten. Like, there's more players from EU out there, but I don't know if they could have gotten.
Yeah, see, like, the major piece of this that's missing, if I'm looking at EU, for one, Askin, who is an absolute monster French player that's currently playing for Toronto Esports. Another standout DPS player, you have someone like Defiant, who was, like, one of the only Team Giganti members that didn't get signed to the Overwatch League in Season 1, who's another very serviceable Tracer player in his own right. But, like, I don't know, it's just, like, the tank line and support line, at least in the EU scene, like, this is this is a continent that loves to play tanks, but at the end of the day, like, when you look at all of the other nodes when it comes to the league, when we see these announcements coming out, even from Shanghai, for example, who announced like a monster roster, like across the board, like, when you compare the two, like, Paris, to me, keeps going lower and lower in their ranks, despite of just having all the information there from Paris already, but, you know, it's still really early on. I would imagine they're probably going to sign another support with whoever that unnamed talent is going to be, because, you know, only having 2 on a roll is very risky. You know, if someone gets sick or gets injured or anything like that, or needs to take a mental break, which could still happen, but it's probably less likely to happen in the second season, just due to the new flexibility of the schedule and bye weeks and all that good stuff and longer breaks. But we'll have to wait and see. I am curious about, you know, what the time frame is going to look like for brand announcements, but, you know, BlizzCon is next week, so chances are we're not going to have to wait very long to know, to learn more about Paris and their franchise. But that being said, you know, we do have some other roster additions to other teams that we do need to talk about, which includes one of the World Cup teams, which I wasn't too surprised by, just because they're trying to meta-proof that team. But let's talk about the Overwatch League teams, part of the original 12. So we got, in addition to Boston Uprising, we got a ton of additions to Chengdu Dranthera, or Shanghai Dragons. But Boston Uprising, they've gone out, they have picked up a DPS player from Gladiators Legion. That's the Gladiators Academy team. So they've looked and added Legion DPS player Blaze to their roster. Now, this is a player that has a hero pool of Doomfist, Genji, Junkrat, and Hanzo. So right now, when you look at the Uprising DPS line, they just had Striker. So they have 2 DPS players right now. They do have another DPS player that is rumored to be signing, that played for the Contenders Australia champions, Sydney Drop Bears, who were back-to-back champions. That being Color Hex, who I'm a very big fan of. Awesome projectile DPS player. But all in all, like, when we look at this current meta, you know, having a Doomfist player or specialist is very important right now. Like, we see quite a bit of, like, Sombra Doomfist comps still. You know, of course, there's, you know, triple tank, triple support. We've even seen, like, a rise of, like, 76 Junkrat Orisa comps in some situations. Like, there's a lot of variety when it comes to this current meta. Now, granted, all of this can change, but it's awesome to bring in players that have such a flexible hero pool, which aren't technically all within the same sort of role set, and bringing in a player like Blaze will be a welcome addition to this lineup.
Yeah, it really will. I mean, they got rid of Mistakes, which I think probably kind of forgotten about, being the other DPS that they had, because, you know, Mistakes took over for he who shall not be named. And it's one of those things where you are going to start to see less one tricks. Like your Sebeobis of the world. Your,
like Jake.
Jake.
I'm just going to say it. I don't care. People can at me all they want.
Jake. God, who else am I thinking of? I'm talking one-trick DPS players. Mm-hmm. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Mr. 150k.
Sinatra? Hey, he's played Zarya and Reinhardt.
He has, but he's kind of been forced to, because Tracer's not viable. Mm-hmm. You're going to start seeing a lot less of these, okay, we're just going to put this person on Tracer every time. We're going to just put this person on this person every time. Because there's so many counters to so many different characters. They can switch to something and it makes Tracer useless. Tracer's useless already because of Bagat, you know, characters like that. So you're going to start seeing more multi-dimensional, like, okay, we want to go from our traditional dive comp to we want to be the dirtiest players alive and run goats. Like, we need the players to be able to switch over and be just as efficient on, like in Sinatra's case, just as efficient on Tracer as they are on like Zarya or something like that. So they can easily switch in between, because if you can't do that, then you're going to get left behind. It's just the evolution of the game. The game from the get-go was one of those, you need to switch based on the scenario that you're in. And now it's always been that way in like lower levels and stuff like that. And it's starting with the more diverse hero pool. You're starting to see that creep up more and more to higher end, to, GM, Platinum, all that stuff. And now it's trickling into the Overwatch League, where everyone's playing at their highest, and you need to be able to do that as well. You need to be able to switch between support players. You need to be able to switch from Winston to Reinhardt to Orisa at any given moment to try and counter the other team. So you're going to start seeing a lot more of that, I think. And mainly you're probably going to see it out of the DPS characters, because that's the biggest pool of actual characters in the game.
So basically, you need to go out and you need to assign a team minimum 8 prophets. And just go from there. That's what you got to do. That's how you put together a winning team, and then whatever they throw at you, you can react to, and it will just evolve over time, as the meta of trying to counter the counter of the counters comes to fruition. But New York is in a very precarious situation when it comes to DPS, to the point where some of their academy DPS might even have to swap roles, which we talked about on OWLN.
It's one of those things. It's baffling to me, because we can make all the predictions we want on rumored signings and whatnot, but I think the biggest issue is going to come up with, what are some of these actual Overwatch League teams going to do with their talents? What is New York going to do with their talent? Because they have to get rid of some of the DPS. You don't want angry players, but you're 5 deep on all-star level DPS players, and you can only play 2 of them. People are going to be upset. What is Philadelphia going to do? Because they have the best contenders team. Their contenders team is probably better than half the Overwatch League teams, and you're starting to see people poach their contenders team because they don't have room for them. So they have to start making spots. The Gladiators, what are they going to do with the tanks from the Gladiators contenders team?
Which is important to note here, too, because, when you and I looked at that Legion team, and, okay, we're talking about, sign-ins for expansion teams or just in the free agency signing window, you and I felt very confident, like, out of all of the tank lines that are in Contenders NA, that would have been the tank line to go. And, based on the rumor mill and the known sign-ins right now, that's not been the case. It's been their DPS that got picked up, or, one is officially signed, one is unofficial. And then, what are they going to do? You look at Fusion University, they have Zachary, they have Alarm. Who Are You is still underage, and he's not eligible for Season 2. But they have a lot of pieces, too. And then, you look at XL2 with Nene and Flower, Nanohana. They have Mangachu. And, Torbjorn just got reworked. And you never know if Torb's going to be meta. Like, Mangachu would be a monster pick if Torb suddenly becomes an insta-pick or just a very good, map specialist. So, it's a curious case where you have teams where, they have some of the best talent in T2, but, where exactly do you shift the pieces in order to make room for that? And, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Zachary sign with another franchise out there. Or see Beast Halo, who is rumored to be signed into one of the Chinese teams as, one of the few Western players on one of those Chinese teams.
Right.
Same with Silk Thread was another rumored player on that said team. But it's a very interesting case, and with New York, I don't know what they're going to do. The rumor is Nene's going to get called up, and he's going to move to the tank line. So he'll be playing off-tank like he has in the past. But, he's been primarily the DPS player, and they're like, okay, we'll move Flower up to DPS. But if you go back and you watch Contenders last season, it wasn't Flower performing, it was Nene every single time. So it's just, it just boggles my mind. So hopefully...
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, hopefully New York can figure their stuff out. Hopefully Zachary isn't kind of left out in the cold, because I would be extremely upset if that's gonna be the case.
Yeah, and it's not just even that. Like, look at all of Dallas Fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Fuel went out and essentially bought a contenders team that was the best contenders team available. That wasn't like already a affiliate, and we haven't really heard anything from them. Like McGravy, probably the best flex tank in contenders NA, arguably. But McGravy was awesome. Has he been called up?
Nope.
Like, what's going to happen to him? Because he needs to be on the roster. He really does. You know, they have so much talent on the Dallas Fuel, that envious, or whatever they're calling themselves. Do they have a different name now that they're affiliated with the Dallas Fuel? So there's Dumpster Fire and then Trash Can Fire?
I mean, it's Team Envy.
Okay. Well, I'm going Trash Can Fire. And, you know, they had a good team, and we don't know what's going on with really much of them either. So I don't know what's going on. These the original 12 teams need to make up their minds and give their rosters. Like, that's something they need to change for the next season. This is just too frustrating because, like, as a fan, you're intrigued by like the drama, but there's so much going on that you just get lost.
Right, and it's not only that, but like, I'll use the next thing as an example. You know, you bring up, some teams being quiet, but like Shanghai, like they have not been quiet at all. They just added 6 players to their roster this past week. But like, let's say you're a Fuel fan right now, and you really haven't seen them making moves outside of sign-in closer. Like you look at these other teams that are announcing like 3, 6, upwards of 9 players, and then you're just like, whoa, like that takes out some of the key pieces that you might have been looking at, or like some of the people that you were trying to prioritize to sign. So it definitely puts them in kind of like the outside looking in a sense, where maybe they're not all necessarily going to get like the person that they were seeking the most because they've already been scooped up by another team. But that being said, Shanghai, they have gone almost fully Korean, plus Dia. Dia is still on this roster. He's the only Chinese player on this roster, but they have added 6 players to their roster, 4 of which come through Kondu Panthera. So those Kondu players that have been signed are Yunjin, Didin, Koma, and Luffy. Also joining the team, you have former Toronto Esports off-tank Guardian, as well as Lucky Future Zenith Hitscan DPS Diem. So again, like, Dia is the only Chinese player. And, in a sense, like, when you look at these rosters, Shanghai last year, they had a mixed roster. They had Korean players, they had Chinese players. It was very split. And there were a lot of communication errors, maybe more so on the support line than anything, especially when it comes to, like, alt management and positioning, things like that. But, having a mostly Korean lineup or a completely whatever lineup as opposed to, like, a half and half has to be a lot easier to only having one person learn, like, keywords as opposed to half of your team, essentially.
Yeah, it's just... They're good, like you said, with this new team, they're probably the that we know of so far. Like, this was the Shanghai Panther, and it's essentially that. They went out and got the number 2 Korean team. And it's not even like if I may be wrong, but Kangdu Panther actually was the best team in the regular season over Runaway.
They're very close, and like, you can say they're second best based on the grand finals, but like, it was very minimal even if you look at it that way. Like, yeah. Runaway and KDP are like so close, as evident to what the series was. It was a best of 7 that went to the 7th game. Actually, it was 8 games because there was a tie in there.
Mm-hmm. So essentially what Shanghai did is they arguably arguably went out and signed the majority of the best Korean team to go with their best 3 returning players. That's a good team. Like, that is such a drastic increase in skill over what they previously had. So I'm excited to see them. They're gonna be the fan favorite going into next year, hands down, because they were essentially the fan favorite. They were the lovable losers in season 1. So the first time Shanghai wins a match, the fan base is gonna go nuts.
Week 1.
You're calling it week 1. What if they go up against New York Excelsior?
I don't care. I'm still calling it. We are all about bold predictions, Cotton. That is what we do on this podcast. I'm saying, watch, week 1, they're going to have a bye week. Just completely...
Week 1, they're going to go up against Vancouver.
Yeah, then I'll just be like... Oh,
Runaways versus Panthera. Take 2 different names. Electric Boogaloo. That is what's going to happen. If you're whatever in Overwatch, you're making that match happen week 1. Because, I mean, it would actually be a big match.
And in a primetime slot, you would have to put it there.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that, like, we haven't really thought about or talked about is you're going to start to see more influential scheduling in a lot of these matches based on the rosters that they have. Like, gone are the days of, I don't think Houston versus Dallas is that big of a rivalry yet. It could be, but neither one of the teams are that good. The LA rivalry is awesome, but that's because honestly, everyone plays in the same stadium in LA. Like, if every team was not playing in the same stadium in the same city, I don't think Gladiators versus Valiant would be as big. I think you're going to start seeing some of these, New York versus DC rivalries. You're going to see a lot of the Chinese rivalries. You're going to see if Vancouver does sign Runaways, you're going to see Shanghai versus Vancouver rivalry, Vancouver versus Toronto rivalry, Atlanta versus Florida? I don't know. No one cares about Atlanta.
No, it's a battle of team colors. It would have to be Toronto.
Yes. But, like,
you stole our color scheme.
You're going to have London versus Paris because they're the 2 EU teams. So, like, the scheduler can make a big influence on how viewership is handled and stuff like that. You see that a lot in traditional sports.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they do it. So week 1 have that matchup, but they could also do something like week 4 rivalry week. So you play Houston, Dallas, Valiant Gladiators, New York, Boston, Vancouver, Toronto, and just have all those matchups to have rivalry week or whatever like that. And so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to Shanghai versus Vancouver Runaways. Part 2.
Yeah, we need that KDP runaway in the primetime slot. And when it comes to EU, like I'm gonna sidetrack here for a moment. This was initially in the show notes, but there was a recent interview with Nate Nancer from The Sun Online, and he talked a little bit about friendlier EU scheduling for season 2. And as we mentioned, like when they announced the season 2 format changes and when it starts, they said it was starting on a Thursday. And, they noted, like, they kind of, like, look at the Premier League and how that's scheduled, and something that they're thinking about doing is, maybe they'll start scheduling some earlier matches in order for them to be at a better time slot for Europe. So that would primarily, that affect London more so than the other teams, and Paris because, they are the EU team. So who knows, like, we very well could be seeing a Thursday through Sunday shift in the 4-day schedule going into season 2. Maybe it's not just a one-off. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with that, but that is something to keep note of. So we're going to start to see them try to just work around the regions and how they're going to schedule the matches. But, since you are based in LA, in season 1, it was very hard to appease everyone. There's no way to do that. Time zones are a pain in the butt. No one knows how they work. You have things that are happening at night, things that are happening in the day, middle of the afternoon, all of that good stuff. But Shanghai is going to be a better looking team, and out of all of the knowns and all of the unknowns, I'm a lot more confident in Shanghai than I am some of the other teams that we know of right now, even over probably half of the Season 1 teams at this point. But I'm excited. I think they'll have a monster season. The DPS lineup is going to be looking a lot better. The support line will actually have cohesion because they have the best support line straight out of Contenders Korea. So Shane Du, Dranthera. I don't know if I want to give an early prediction on where I think they're going to place, but I could see them being a top 6 team. Like if I'm making a bold statement, I can see them doing top 6.
Wow, I will not go that far. I have been burned, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It's just without knowing the rosters of the new teams and the actual rosters of the existing teams, I don't know if I can go with any predictions yet on how things are going to go. But they improved tenfold. Mm-hmm. They just did. They're better now than half the teams in the Overwatch League were last year. I will say that. Like, their team now, if they had the team they have in last year's Overwatch League, they probably would have finished top 6.
How much would it be, like, to throw everyone off if Shanghai suddenly goes 28-0 after going 0-40? Like, that would be, like, the most surreal thing to ever happen in sports. Like, to go from losing every single game to suddenly being this unstoppable, force in the Overwatch League.
That would just be a giant, like, okay, only in East.
Yeah.
So
that's Korea for you. But,
South Korea.
Yeah. And South Korea, they've had a lot of sign-ins in the Overwatch League for, the free agency sign-in window, and they've also made a ton of roster changes ahead of BlizzCon and top 8 for the World Cup. So, these changes were reflected in the Overwatch League's World Cup preview that they posted earlier in the week. So, they removed 3 NYXL members from their roster. And they brought in 2 non-NYXL members, and Animo, who happens to be from NYXL. Specifically, they traded one and then added 2, non-New York players. So, who's gone? They got rid of Sabiolbi, they got rid of Meko, they got rid of Ark the Undying, which I'm always going to refer to him as because that's what he's known for. Oh, and the Jonak damage booster. That's the other part of the title. So, in their place, you have Fleta from the Seoul Dynasty, Fury off-tank for London Spitfire, and again, Animo from New York Excelsior, also main support. So again, like the World Cup, we got top 8 at BlizzCon, starts November 2nd, and South Korea is set to open things up in the quarterfinals against Australia. Or, against, their first official match, right, will be against the United States in the semis, when we'll knock them out. Or maybe not. Like, I look at these, and I was like, I can understand these. The only, kind of question mark one was Ark and Animo. Like, they're pretty close, but, right now, we're not really in, a Mercy meta, and I think, Animo has a little bit more flexibility in regards to that route, and when you look at the swaps that they did, flexibility is definitely the thing to take note of, because you look at Sabiolbi, he plays a lot of Tracer, he plays a lot of Widow, but they have Carpe, he has Widow covered. Tracer's not really being seen right now. So
Carpe has Widow covered, Fleta has Widow covered.
Right, and Fleta also provides projectile DPS for that team as well. And then Meko, I personally think Fury is the best off-tank in the league, so for me, that wasn't too much of a stretch. But when you're looking at these changes, what really stands out to you in regards to maybe, the reason behind it? Or, maybe if these changes are reflected on, what meta they're predicting to see, or just what we're currently in right now.
Well, I mean, so the Sebayomi and Fleta makes complete sense. Tracer is non-existent in the meta right now, and yes, Sebayomi can play other characters, but not. He is a Tracer player. He is one of those one-trick Tracer players. Like, he can play other ones, but he's on the team because he plays Tracer. And when Tracer's not viable, why get him over Fleta, who is a better all-around DPS? Just overall, a better overall DPS. I completely agree with you that Fury is a much better flex tank than Meko. Like, maybe not much better, but he's the best flex tank in the league, arguably. But so I'm totally okay with that. The Animo and Arc thing is because, like you said, Mercy not so much in the meta, fine and dandy, but the simple fact that they probably took Jonak and saw who he worked with best over the two in the current meta says a lot about the team. So, like, this is something that if they're picking Animo over Arc to play with Jonak, all three of them, same team. You're basically saying this is, the Jonak Animo is what you're going to see in season 2 if the meta stays the same when the season starts, and so on and so forth. So, like, Arc is someone who could start seeing bench time in the Overwatch League too, because you're starting to see it here. It was definitely the more surprising of the three changes. Sebayomi is surprising just because he's my favorite and people love him, but from a pure play perspective, I think you had to go when all this occurred. I honestly, I'll be the first to admit, when they announced, like, they could change their World Cup team. Like, I honestly didn't know they could change BlizzCon. So, this turned them in from the favorites to win to the favorites to win.
So what you're saying was
still the most ridiculous team in the Overwatch. Ridiculous Cup.
Yeah.
And then it's still the most ridiculous team in the World Cup. So it's like, none of this changed anything.
Yeah, for me, it's like, okay, South Korea has a good chance to bleed, to, okay, it's gonna be a mere flesh wound at this point, essentially. But, like, you know who was really happy about Sabiobi getting benched? Sinatra! He's not gonna be like, yeah, I lost because, SBB had, Harmony on him. That's the only reason why he lost Tracer duels against SBB, not because he got outplayed. Nothing like that, so he'll be happy. Not that they'd be doing Tracer v Tracer.
Sinatra. You are on the Sinatra hate train still. You were bitter from a year ago.
I appreciate his tank play a lot more than I do his DPS play.
All right, fair. All right.
But, I just, you had to hold on to that just because, like, really? Like, that's what you're going to throw out here? Like, it was more the attitude that was presented with it than anything. Just,
all right, I'll give you that.
It was more that. But anyways, this will lead into our main discussion, and we did have a new developer update from our dev and savior, Papa Jeffy Cap. Praise him. And this was an October update, which kind of, like, hit on a new PTR patch. Let's see, what else? There was, like, this other, like, minor, like, thing that's gonna be tied into esports. Just very minor, which we'll talk about last, which is a pretty big deal.
The most game-changing thing that happened in esports
could be
overall for every game in the past 5 years? I don't know.
Possibly.
Maybe that's just me.
But let's talk about the PTR first, because there's a couple of things that went down on the PTR, which does include balance changes. So patch 1.30 has been deployed to the PTR, which brought balance updates. It brought the Route 66 payload map changes, Mike Morheim tribute on Blizzard World, and a couple other things. So for one, they made a jump height consistent across the hero roster. So currently on live servers, heroes have different jump heights.
That Tracer can get to different spots because she can actually jump higher, which is weird, but she can.
It's because she's lighter. Like, you're not going to be able to jump, like, 20 meters with, like, a Roadhog. But you can with Tracer, because she's a feather.
Yeah. So, like, the thing I want to know, and somebody is going to have to do science with this, is what did they move it to? Did they bump everyone up to Tracer? Or did they bump, like, people like Tracer down?
I know there's a thread on Reddit about this with a video. I have not watched it.
Okay.
But I know it kind of looked at normal jump in as well as crouch jump in, and there was some sort of reflection on both of those, so that's important to note. But we'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, because this could be another. I mean, I hate to say it, another. If they Tracer down, that's a nerf. I mean, plain and simple. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I'll have to. We'll check that out and get back to you next week or whatever. We'll make Spider make a video or something.
Because that's when it needs more work. But anyways, let's talk about the important changes, and that are the balance changes. So first up, everyone panicked because Mercy is getting buffed.
I did.
You did for sure. You were one.
I reread it.
You were one of those people that looked at this and are like, "Oh, they just brought her healing back to what it was." Baby rage. No, that's not what it was. So Mercy Valkyrie ultimate cost was reduced by 15%, and her healing per second was increased from 50 to 60. What you did not see was that is only reflected in Valkyrie form. And that's one of the mistakes a lot of people have made, yourself included. So all in all, like, you know, a little bit quicker ults, a little bit more healing. Totally, it's not game breaking or anything, so
no.
I'm not gonna say, like, this is gonna bring her back to being perceived meta. I still feel like she's gonna be on Pharah duty right now in regards to this change. But the bigger changes come to the shotgun heroes in Reaper and Roadhog. So, Reaper's spread randomization was reduced by 50% for his Hellfire shotguns, and then they also buffed his lifesteal ability from 20% to 30% of his damage dealt. Whew, okay. I got, what word? Or, I don't know if it's two. I'm gonna say one.
Okay.
Beyblade, it's coming back. The Ana Reaper combo is gonna come back. It's gonna happen.
Okay, first off,
I did not.
Beyblade.
That's.
I feel a blade needs to be involved. For starters,
that's not how that works.
It's if you would have been like Bay Gun,
because they call it Nanoblade.
Whatever.
Blame the casters.
This is a really good change for Reaper. You know, does it make him meta viable? Because really, right now he's not meta viable. He's decent against, you know, goats.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, though, is if you're playing against the Baguette, Reaper getting in there and getting stunned is very detrimental. Like, his ultimate can be interrupted so easily with a Baguette stun, or anything like that. So in the stun meta, like, Reaper needs to be changed to a little bit more drastically, I think, to be viable, truly viable, because he's so susceptible to the stun meta.
Mm-hmm.
That is, when you need to be in there fighting, you can be stunned in a million different ways, just like anyone else. And tanks are used to it, but Reaper doesn't have the health pool and stuff like that a tank normally does. So this is great. He's going to do more damage, and on the right teams, he's going to be truly deadly. I fear in lower levels, he's going to be played more than he should be.
Due to, like, his sustain both damage and healing.
Exactly. But he's still easily counterable. He really is. Like, anytime there's a Reaper, if you need somebody to counter a Reaper, go Baguette. Just because he does nothing against her.
Mm-hmm.
Really, a lot of the problems in the game right now revolve around Baguette. Like
Or just
I hate
CC in general, basically.
yeah, CC in general, but she has the easiest CC in the game. I mean, it's a smaller cooldown or a larger cooldown than flashbang and stuff, but it's easier to manage and easier to hit people. So it's just he's so susceptible to all that. I don't know what they can do to him if they don't nerf Baguette more. And I think if they do something to counter Baguette and her stuns, Reaper's gonna be insane. What like it's if they take meta, Reaper's gonna get plugged into the meta and just wreck people's face with these changes.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are looking at this and are like, "Damn, like he's gonna be meta just based off of initial like gut reactions." And I feel like a lot of this is gonna be kind of overreacting on the community's part, similar to prior Mercy changes. Probably be the closest thing to compare it to. For me, like I look at this, I'm like, okay, like I already played Reaper in Deathmatch. That's not going to change. That's the thing that's gonna be awesome in that specific mode. But like it's like I feel like because it still is a shotgun hero. Yes, he's gonna have a little bit more sustain, both with the damage that he deals because his shots are gonna be a little bit more concise. But like. We had to see how consistent that DPS is in regards to the range that he's at, because at the end of the day, he's still using shotguns. His range isn't going to be the best. He's still close quarters due to the fact that he has to be right up in the action, and he can't always do that if there's, the CC meta on the field if you're running the Sombra and the Brigitte.
Yeah. And I think but I will say this, I think this sends the dagger into Winston. Like, Winston already kind of had dagger with the meta that's going on right now. He's just not that effective. But I think the buff to Reaper really kind of puts that final nail in the coffin with, Winston. Being able to basically be like, okay, I can easily 1v1 you now. And there's nothing you can do about it. On top of being stunned, not being able to jump in, not being able to jump out, stuff like that. All the problems that occur with Winston, adding this on top of it is something that kind of puts him, I don't want to say on the same level as Tracer, like in playability, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, for me, like when we're looking at the spread randomization with the reduction, like the key thing to think about when it comes to the viability of Reaper at this point is going to be like how concise is the headshot ratio going to be when you're playing Reaper, because the higher that is, obviously the more likely you are to play, because not only are you pumping out more damage, you're also going to be able to keep yourself up longer just due to the fact that you are going to get healing more based off of that damage dealt with that additional 10%. But, that's not the only shotgun that has seen a little bit of changes, because we also got to look at Roadhog. So, we talked a little bit about, like, the rumor mill and what the supposed leak was. There's no new alternate fire that we were hoping for, no shrapnel gun, anything like that. But these are the changes that Roadhog is seeing on the PTR right now. Some of it deals with the hook, some of it deals with spread randomization as well, and a few changes to Whole Hog. So the chain hook delay has been decreased before pulling a hook target from 0.5 seconds to 0.3 seconds. It also greatly reduces the target's momentum upon being hooked. The cooldown begins immediately instead of after the target has been pulled. When we look at the scrap gun, the spread pattern has been adjusted for both his primary fire and his secondary fire. They gave him the same spread randomization treatment of reducing it by 50%. And then for Whole Hog, they increased the knockback maximum velocity by 25%, which seems like a lot. It's basically gone from 8 meters to 10 meters per second. And then the horizontal recoil was decreased slightly for Whole Hog. So again, like, Hook has always kind of been the ability that seems like every patch or every other patch, there's some sort of iteration to the changes, what it's going to be. And it's kind of been like this ability that they have never gotten right.
Yep.
So Like, it's very hard for me to be, like, very confident when I'm like, this is going to be it. Like, this is going to be the change that Roadhog has needed all this time. But it's just been, like, fine-tuning just about every time we turn around. But I'm looking forward to just being able to have a reduced spread randomization, so we'll have a little bit more consistent DPS, which might not necessarily be Roadhog's problem right now, but I just want to see more consistency when it comes to the chain hook, because that is the bread and butter for Roadhog.
Yeah, no, like we talked about this, I think it was last week when we talked about the hook was the thing we both kind of agreed on, that everything revolves around the hook. The hook needs to be fixed. Now, did they fix the hook with all this? Don't know yet. Too early to tell. Hopefully they did. I do like that they greatly reduced the target's momentum upon being hooked. So that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that takes away some of the, okay, I'm going to hook somebody, turn to the side, and fling them off the edge. I hate that mechanic of this. Because, like, why have them, if you just turn slightly, why fling them forward when you're just staring at them? They stop right in front of you. It just, physics didn't work. So, you know, I like the changes they made to hook. Hopefully it works and it's fixed. The spread randomization, it helps with kind of, I think, the smaller targets. When you hook them, bring them in, and you only get one shot on them now, that it will be easier to do the hook, shoot, one kill, like one shot kill. Hopefully that helps out. And the whole hog, I mean, yes, it was buffed. I don't think it was buffed drastically. You know, the knockback velocity, you know, is not a massive buff. But I think these changes all revolve around on if they got the hook right. If they did not get the hook right, Roadhog is in the same problem he was. He's just not that viable. And which is sad, because Roadhog is probably my favorite tank to actually play, but he's just not viable. And because the hook is as broken as Reinhardt's charge and Reinhardt's ultimate and Reinhardt's everything. And I really hope they fixed it this time, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because, like you said, they fix it every patch almost. So, you know, I hope they got it right this time. And I'm glad they buffed the damage a little bit on the gun.
Yeah, we'll have to pay attention to Harblue's Twitter account, because he'd be the best indicator of where this new iteration of Roadhog is at, just because that is his go-to hero. Well, we have one more balance update that revolves around Symmetra. So they increased the charge rate of her primary fire beam, which is their, you know, photon projector. So that's gone up 20% in regards to the speed. So, you know, you'll be getting that max volume or max percentage, you know, faster than what it was before. Now, that being said, you know, when I look at this, I was like, okay, that doesn't really change that much with Symmetra. Like, I'm still not going to be out picking her in a vast majority of situations, even with all of her changes. And, you know, like, I still feel like she's in this weird spot where her teleporter is just a sense that, like, you need to have people that actually utilize it, otherwise it's just still a throw pick in my eyes, and not a lot of people are still using it to its fullest potential. So she's just in, like, this weird spot where I don't think they really know what they want to do with Symmetra. This might give her, you know, a little bit a quicker time, just, like, bursting through, like, the barriers. But outside of that, just, like, is shortening her time to kill, you know, just a little bit enough to make her viable? I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is either. I think they buffed this is because they didn't want, right now, if you're playing Symmetra, if you're using her left click, you are playing her raw.
This is true.
Like, her primary fire is so useless compared to her alternate fire, that using her primary fire is detrimental to your team. I think they buffed her primary fire because they didn't want the primary fire to be detrimental to the team. I think it just boils down to that. I don't think, honestly, that this is a buff to her. I don't consider this a buff to Symmetra, because all it's going to do is it's going to take people away from using her alternate fire and making them use her primary fire. And I think her primary fire was buffed to be the same as her alternate fire, the same damage that her alternate fire was doing. So you're getting the same damage output as you were before from Symmetra's alt fire. It just feels less broken not using her primary fire over her alternate fire. So I think this is kind of a wash. You can now use, if you want, you can now use Symmetra's alternate fire, and you can use her primary fire, and you'll get the same damage output from both of them, instead of the alternate fire being so drastically better than the primary fire. So I'm with you. I don't think this makes her a must pick. I don't think this is a big buff to her. Mm-hmm. She's still stupid easy counterable. Yes, she can be a good surprise pick on a certain point, and you walk through, the car wash and stuff like that. You can still surprise people, and people are still going to be like, she's OP because of that. And I'm like, well, if you're smart, you realize you can easily get around all the Symmetra's crap. So this does not change anything for me with Symmetra.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at this, maybe this is a situation with her beam at this point. Maybe her primary fire is specifically going to be used for, the single target DPS. People will still be using the alternate fire for splash damage. But, it could just boil down to your tracking too. Obviously, with the primary fire beam, it's going to be probably easier for players to actually lock on than, say, try to compensate for the rate of fire and the speed of the actual projectile with their alternate fire. So that's basically everything in this new PTR build, outside of one more change to another map, which is, more of an Easter egg again, in this case, and it happens to be on Busan. So, we have the Route 66 payload change, we have the Mordheim tribute on Blizzard World, we also have 2 new heroes that are able to interact with the karaoke machine on Busan, and those 2 heroes are Torbjorn and McCree. So they join the lineup of Wrecking Ball and Reinhardt as the only heroes in the game that can actually use the karaoke. So, they keep going back to this. Are we expecting to eventually get through the entire, Overwatch lineup? Are we going to get to the point where we have all 28 heroes being able to sing in-game?
Eventually, yeah. I mean, eventually you get it. And they'll add it each time. Like you said, so we have Torbjorn, McCree, join, Reinhardt, Hammond, and who else?
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Yeah, they're slowly going to add things like this. It does nothing. It adds nothing to the game. It's just fun. I'm still bitter because, all right, when Hammond comes up, what song does Hammond sing?
In game?
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, you know what song it's not?
Wrecking Ball?
Boom! It is not Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. That's it. To me, that's broken.
Something tells me you were one of the few people that is going to be irate about that.
it's what okay. So this is a giant pet peeve of mine, and this goes back to there was an old Brewers player named Corey Hart. Okay. And for those of you baseball fans, you probably remember him. He was an all-star. He was pretty good. But Corey Hart is also a famous 1980s pop singer. He has the song "I Wear My Sunglasses at Night." Everyone knows this song. Now, baseball players are allowed to pick what songs they come up to bat to. Corey Hart said he never wanted to play Corey Hart, I wear my sunglasses at night. And ever since that day, it has annoyed me that like when the most obvious fun song is not played regarding a character's name or anything like that, it bothers me. So it went from Corey Hart of the Brewers not playing I Wear My Sunglasses at Night to Hammond Wrecking Ball not singing Wrecking Ball, and more 18-year-old college students are singing Wrecking Ball in a karaoke bar than actual Wrecking Ball is singing at a karaoke bar in game. Rant over.
Okay.
Like, I did not expect it to go this way. Ednar's kind of gone off the rails more than usual.
It wouldn't be the first time tonight. But anyways, that's minor news. Let's talk about esports for a second. And this one I am excited about, but at the same time, I am bitter about. And one aspect, which I know you're going to bring up, which we'll get to. So, Observer tools are coming to the Overwatch client for the World Cup and eventually beyond. So, what does that mean? 1, player-specific point of views. Highlights, replays, having the ability to move to really any viewpoint you want. To, swap in between first, third-person perspectives for all players on the field, free camera movement, top-down options, and all this is going to start with the Overwatch World Cup. So, the beta for this, which is the Overwatch World Cup viewer, this is important to note if you are, someone that plays on PS4 or Xbox One, this is only available on PC. So, the dominant way of gaming. But Kaplan specifically noted that this was available for the semifinals and the finals of the World Cup. So, looking at long-term goal here, there's Season 2 of Overwatch League coming up in February, and there is no doubt in my mind that this is going to be ready for that. And as a content creator, as podcasters, as people that release YouTube content, even if you're someone that wants to, look back at your own progress in the game and try to, see what your issues are or where your positioning is, replays are absolutely massive to not only player growth, but the growth of esports as a whole, and just giving us observer tools for anyone to use and being able to see positioning of pro players and how they're playing and how exactly the tank line is diving, things like that. That's so crucial to Overwatch, and this has been something that the community has been wanting for a long time, and this is a monster feature, basically, and we're finally gonna get our hands on it. Except I won't, because, I'll be there in the arena, but you will be at home checking this out, so I'll definitely have to get my feedback from you and from our listeners, but to you, how big of a magnitude is a replay feature just to the average player and to content creators out there?
I mean, like I said earlier, this is probably the biggest thing to happen to esports overall in the past 5 years. To be able to have the spectator control the views they're on, to be able to move around the map freely, to do anything like that. No other sport can ever offer this. You can't watch the Super Bowl and be like, okay, I want to move. Oh, I don't like this angle they're showing at the Super Bowl. Let's switch that. Let's go follow this guy. You know what I mean? But to me, this is indispensable to anything. And to the simple fact that it's out there and we'll be able to test it is massive. I personally, so the way I kind of am going to be going about it is when I'm watching it live, I'm going to watch the way they're showing it, not me following specific people, because they have more information than me and they can switch to camera angles quicker than I can to see the important plays and stuff like that. But if I'm watching replays, Like because obviously I can't watch every game every week to get ready for the show. I have to watch a lot of replays, but I can switch around and be like, okay, in this match, I can read Reddit, I can listen to you and Spider and Slambo talk about the game, and it can be like, I can't believe, Sebiobi had this game. I know I can be like, okay, I know watching this game, trying to review it, I can be like, I'm going to follow Sebiobi and see what they're talking about. Or in big team fights, I can see what's going on. You don't have to follow the Widowmakers and the Tracers, which is who they generally tend to follow a lot in the Overwatch League. Now, if you're a tank player, you can be like, I want to follow this Reinhardt. I want to follow, Fissure. I want to see what he's doing. He's the best tank out there. I want to see how he plays, how he jumps in, because that's stuff you don't get to see. You don't get to see supports. You don't get to see Custa or someone like that generally on screen. So now a fan can be like, I want to follow Custa the entire time. I want to play like him. And they can mock and see how their players do it and see how people react to certain situations. Like, this is massive. Like, when I knew there was spectator mode coming, like, we all knew spectator mode was going to come in one form or another. I guess I hadn't really realized how big it was. Like, and how big of a change until Jeff started to explain it. Like, to be like, you know what, live during the match, you have full control to do whatever you want. Like, that's insane. Like, every single person is going to have different views if they want of the entire match. When I was thinking replay system, I was literally thinking, okay, in the VODs, they're going to give you the chance, like, you're going to be able to get to follow each individual player type of thing. That's what I was honestly thinking was going to happen with the replay system. And this blew that out of the flipping water. This is going to be the best thing for content, period. Anyone who follows the Overwatch League or who does any sort of content creation for the Overwatch League is going to fall in love with all of this. Especially YouTube creators, because they're going to be able to show the stuff a lot easier than, podcasters will, because podcasters it's not a visual thing. So I fully expect our YouTube feed to start to get more content out there because of this. And I'm putting that all on Spider, but but you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where this is the dream of every content creator out there in any video game genre. Like, imagine if they had this in some, or, other things like that. Like, it will eventually now get to those games, but Overwatch brought it out first. And you're going to start seeing, honestly, what this is going to be best for is coaching in the Overwatch League. And not from the coaches who already exist. You're going to start to see more of the Jane type coaches come out. You're going to start seeing more people on Twitch bringing out like analyzing matches live on Twitch, because then now they can specifically show you, be like, okay, and then the camera and be like, this is what I like what they've done here, this is what I like what they've done here, look at what they're doing here. And teams are going to notice that, and then the coaching ranks are going to fill up with all these quality people. Spider is one of those people, from the Overwatch League Network, who is someone who could get noticed live on Twitch doing these kind of reviews, because I know he coaches, and this is going to be a vital tool for him. Now, the thing that I'm wondering about is eventually if we're going to be able to make clips of ourselves to do replay. Like, we're going to be able to do the replay of the Overwatch World Cup. We're no question about it. Season 2, it will be available. But are we going to be able to record if me and you play comp tomorrow night? Are we going to be able to record and go back and do the exact same thing with our recorded, game? That if they do something like that, then it's it's even bigger than what I expected. But I'm not fully expecting that to happen just yet.
Yeah, like that to me would probably be post-launch. I would imagine like they're gonna focus on the esports just because Overwatch League is their baby, essentially. But that's definitely gonna be on the radar, 100%. And it makes sense too because like you look right now with the things going on with these third-party statistic applications like Visor and Pursuit, and we still haven't really like gotten any sort of update in regards to either of those programs. But obviously, like they've basically just been like shut down at this point, and like it kind of makes sense now. Like Blizzard wants to put you in that shoes to improve your own play, and having player replays, especially of your own play, would be crucial to that. So it's a very big set for Overwatch. You should help maintain analysts, content creation, help you improve your own play, help you learn how certain teams approach situations. Now, I'm going to use Season 1 as example because this is the best thing to do. Let's look back at Jonak Syndrome for a second here. So, again, you had Arc on Mercy, Jonak playing Zenyatta, damage boosting from Arc to Jonak. You had other teams trying to adapt and do the same thing. Did it work? They don't know why. If you have a situation like that, now you can actually go back and see exactly how, a team like New York was playing their game. That's not to say that you might fully understand why they were doing everything that they did, but you can help mimic it better. So, yes, you might not know the fullest extent of the reason behind everything that a player is doing, but, any sort of coach, any sort of player or content creator that does analysis has been clamoring for this sort of feature. And it's only going to help elevate not only the content that's being created by the community, but, it's just going to spawn a lot more because of it, too. So I'm excited. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. And it definitely opens up a lot more options for us with the YouTube channel, with our host streams, things like that. And I cannot wait to go crazy with this in Overwatch League Season 2 when I'm sure it's going to be due out. Like, I can't imagine it not being live for Season 2.
No. Though the thing that it will, honestly, and I'm sure they took this into account, is it's going to hurt Twitch. Because I don't think it's going to be, like, I feel... But I feel this can't be integrated with Twitch that well.
Okay.
Just because of the way everything... It's like, right now, so for when they're going to be trying it out, you can only use it through the Blizzard, the Battle.net. Like, that's the only way they're going to be doing it. I don't know how feasible it is to be like, okay, on Twitch now, I need Twitch to be interactive with the viewer.
Well, okay, so what if they tied this to the All Access Pass? That would be the only way to keep it Twitch integrated in that sense.
But I feel they would need to have different programming with Twitch. Like, there's Twitch, which we're used to Twitch, but Twitch is not a clickable, interactive interface. And
outside of like add-ons.
Outside of add-ons.
Right.
But like, it's the normal viewer can't watch something and be like, okay, I want to interact watching. And they would have to be interactive with what we're watching for this to work on Twitch. So Twitch would need to be a whole new... Twitch would need to introduce something insane, which is possible because the Overwatch League is massive for Twitch. It just is. It's one of the constant viewership gains that they get. So if they can integrate this with Overwatch and it goes successful, then they can go to Fortnite, they can go to PUBG, any of the other, Call of Duty, League of Legends, any of those games, and be like, listen, we have this technology that's proven. If your company does this, we can actually help do that and integrate it into other games. But that's a very drastic change. Like, they'd have to do a complete remodel of Twitch to make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's almost a thing of the future with because once it's introduced to one of the biggest esports in the world, I think it's going to catch on. And if Twitch doesn't adapt, Twitch is going to hurt. So, because people watching Overwatch League will have Overwatch on the PC. And if you have a choice between watching on Twitch and not being able to view what you want to, and watching it on BattleNet and being able to see what you want to, people are going to choose BattleNet. Like every single time. So Twitch needs to really get on board and change things to make this truly work phenomenal.
Yeah, when I first saw this, my initial reaction had really nothing to do with the amount of features included with this. It was like, oh, so they got rid of their observer team, so we can be the observers. I get it.
Be like, you lazy companies. What the hell?
See, they're not hiring like some third party. They're just hiring you for nothing.
And you have to pay them to do it. Be like, you genius bastards. Mm-hmm. Like, you convinced me to pay you.
Yeah.
You're an evil genius.
But I can't wait. But that being said, we're getting to that point. Let's wind down. Let's close out the show. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best things to do is to leave us a positive review over on iTunes. We're always looking for insight on, how we can improve the show, make for a better experience for you guys out there. And if, you have any topics that you want us to discuss on the show as well, we are always open ears. We do have BlizzCon right around the corner, so again, I'm going to shill shamelessly Con Before the Storm and World of Podcasts, so that is on November 1st from the Hilton Anaheim. So, check out the event, the meet and greet, art gallery, go to the World of Podcast panels, specifically the Overwatch panel, the best panel, which is at 10 p.m., it lasts for an hour on the 4th floor of the Hilton. We got Rob May from Omnic Lab, Icy Sorrow from Enter the Iris, the Blevins from High Noon, Andreas from Omnic Lab, I'll recap, Blazing Bob from Watchpoint Radio, I'll recap, Prepare to Attack, and of course, I'm going to be there representing our Overwatch podcast network. We do have Overwatch Recall, which is our podcast directory / third podcast, technically. So, every Sunday I release the episodic listings of all the Overwatch content out there, whether it's, general Overwatch, variety Overwatch, esports specific, Path to Pro specific, all that good stuff over on Twitter at OW Recall. And of course, you can find it on our website. And just as a reminder, there is no Heroes Never Die next Wednesday or the following Wednesday. Both of those shows will be recorded on Monday, which would be October 29th and November 5th. So they'll be up like a day earlier, but, it'll be released both on the Heroes Never Die feed as well as the Overwatch League Network feed. So expect BlizzCon focus to be at the forefront. We'll have brand announcements, I'm sure, roster changes, all of that good stuff. We'll obviously talk about the World Cup and do a little bit of analysis with that. BlizzCon predictions, BlizzCon recap, all of that good stuff, all jumbled into one. And, you could, just jump on the bandwagon with the Observer tools with Spider and just be like, oh man, it's so awesome, and I'm just going to be sitting here sulking while I'm in Vegas. Whether or not I find, Slambo remains to be seen, but that's besides the point. But Edinar, we have a number of ways where our listeners can get a hold of us, so why don't you let them know where they can reach us at?
All right. Well, first off, I have a question. When we start our 4th podcast about Fantasy Overwatch League, are you going to interview yourself on Overwatch Recall? No? Is that a thing?
See, that's the thing. It's like, do I bring a co-host on, or would that just be cheap?
Be like, today we're gonna interview Edinar. Be like, he hosts me every Wednesday. Awkward. But all right, so I'll continue. Well, you can reach us at email at hmdoverwatch@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter at hmdoverwatch. We do have a website. It's called owlnshow.com, which with this new replay system might get some more stuff added to it, as well as our YouTube channel. We are presently streaming live on Twitch, so we are at twitch.tv/owlnshow. We are a Twitch affiliate, so you can support the show by subscribing to our Twitch channel and unlock our network emoticons. So thanks again to everyone who's been watching our shows live and interacting with the chat. If you'd like to catch us live, we're broadcasting 2 nights a week. So Overwatch League Network is Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, and then Heroes Never Die is Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, except for the next 2 weeks. Host streams are held on Thursdays and 7:30 p.m. Pacific normally, unless stuff comes up, BlizzCon, Vegas.
Yeah, I will not. That. I will not be streaming on Thursday nights while I'm on vacation. I can tell you that.
The thing is if you want to harass him, there is at the casino he's staying at in Vegas. There is an esports arena that he could probably stream from.
I mean, I could. I would have to pay to stream there.
So you can also reach Discord at discord.me/OWLNshow. And then we are on YouTube. And that is YouTube. I'm not going to screw it up this week. So it's youtube.com/C/Overwatch League Network. Yes, got it right this week.
Got it.
So come check out all our episodes there. I'm sure, this is something as well as, our website is probably gonna blow up once we get the replay system. I can load all my replays on
That's gonna drive the traffic. I'm sure.
Like, Trash Widow tier featuring editor.
There you go. Yeah, Wood League. That'd be perfect.
And then you can reach me on Twitter at Edinar Overwatch. And Totem, where can they reach you on Twitter?
Well, I'm over on Twitter at TumblyDrunkCTR. And, just a reminder, this Saturday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we are doing a Con Before the Storm stream on their Twitch, which I'll have the link to that and all that good stuff in the show notes. And also, I'll be plugging it on Twitter, obviously. So we're doing Quiplash, which is going to be Overwatch themed. So we'll have some of the panelists from the World of Podcasts Overwatch panel, which I had mentioned when I plugged Con Before the Storm. So I'm not 100% sure how many of us are going to show up. So, there's a decent chance that we might have some slots open in the game itself. So stay tuned for that. That should be a good time. I can definitely meme it up, and I'll probably destroy everyone in it. I'm confident in that. I believe in my capabilities as a meme lord, so it'll be a good time, I promise you. So I hope to see you there. Again, we'll have the Twitch, all that good stuff there. But you have been listening to Heroes Never Die. Again, this has been episode 134. We got 2 Monday shows the next 2 weeks, released on Tuesday. But until then, guys, expect megasodes these next 2 weeks as we break down everything leading up to and post BlizzCon. But we will see you back on Monday, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Heroes Never Die. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HND Overwatch and join us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show.